Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be doing my 2021 NHL mock draft and top 20 prospect rankings. Now the 2021 NHL draft will be going originally as planned, taking place in late July, which means we are only a few months away from the first overall pick officially going on the clock. But who do I see as the best prospects and the best prospect in this 2021 NHL draft, and which prospects make my top 20 prospect rankings? Make sure you watch till the end for all the prospect rankings and all the mock picks, and hit that subscribe button if you're new. Only 35% of the people that are watching these videos are actually subscribed, so every bit helps, and hit that subscribe button for more daily hockey content just like this. Now, before we get into the actual prospect rankings, I do need to say for you guys in this video that this is a prospect rankings video. Sure, I say it's a mock draft, but it's kind of more of a rankings video where I'll put teams next to each player in each position, but those teams are based purely on standings, and I'm not judging who I think these teams will actually take. These are prospect rankings first and foremost, but I'm giving you guys a frame of reference to see what teams could potentially go for on draft day. But we're going to start out today at number 20, and the 20th best prospect in the 2021 NHL draft, and we're going to start out with defenseman Carson Lambos. He's definitely one of the biggest biggest decliners in the rankings these past couple of months. I think he was 13th overall in my last mock draft, coming in at number 20. I still think he's a quality prospect, and in terms of pure defensive play, especially without the puck, I think he has a lot to offer. The problem is, I made a comparison with him to Braden Schneider a few months back, and the more I watch of Carson Lambos, the more I just see Braden Schneider in him. Now, I don't think Braden Schneider is a bad prospect whatsoever, but I was lower on him in terms of potential compared to some other defensemen in the 2020 draft. I mean, when it comes to Carson Lambos, his play away from the puck is really solid. His defensive acumen and awareness and physicality, I think, will have a lot at the NHL level, but the problem is, with the puck, his decision-making can be a little bit clueless at points, and the transition ability that you see in other defenders in this class, like Brandt, Clarke, are simply not even there comparatively. I think Carson Lambos will be an NHL defenseman. It's just the potential there is a little bit questionable. Now going on to number 19, and a guy that I think has dropped a little bit, but I don't think is really too concerning whatsoever. We're going to go on to Russian winger in Nikita Chibrikov. Now, Nikita Chibrikov is still one of my favorite prospects in this draft. When it comes to the great speed skating and the great overall puck handling ability, on top of the skill he already has, I think Chibrikov is a guy that can become a top 6 winger in the NHL. He has slowed down a little bit recently, but he's played in a bunch of leagues. He played a lot of different roles as well. And I think when it comes to Chibrikov, like a lot of other Russian prospects, he will take quite a bit of time. But again, I think the offensive makeup is still there to become one of the better Russian players and one of the better wingers, I would say, in this draft too. Then going on to number 18, we're going to go to another winger on the Swedish side. We're going to go to Simon Robertsson. Now, Robertsson is a fascinating player to me, I would say, in terms of raw potential. I think there's a lot there when you blend the skating and the overall power movement in Robertsson. He is on the shorter side, and I think you can kind of see that in some games, even at the junior level. But I still think Robertsson, if he can grow into a bigger frame, let's say, or grow into that frame he has and fully commit to that more smaller game, I think Robertsson is a player that can definitely be a solid, productive one on the NHL level, and at least as a middle 6 player in the NHL, I think has a lot of value that way. But now we're going to move on to number 17, and the 17th best prospect in the 2021 NHL draft. We're going to go to a guy that's quickly rising on my list personally, in Fedor Zvechkov. Now, Zvechkov is quickly becoming the best Russian in this draft. I love me some Nikita Chibrikov, but Zvechkov is definitely one of the best all-around prospects in this draft. He's become a little bit of a fan favorite in the scouting world these past few months, and it's easy to see why. The stats are there, and the offense, I think, has potential, but when Zvechkov's at his best, he's a hard-checking, hard player to play against that defensively has so much IQ, so much talent, and it's kind of unexpected because you have the whole Russian stereotype where they're bad on defense, but they're elite scorers. But Svechkov has solid offensive skills for sure, but the defense is fantastic. He has been labeled as one of the best defensive forwards in this draft, and I would definitely agree, but I think he's one of the just best pure defensive players overall in this draft, even counting defensemen. He is definitely one of the better ones out there. there, and I could totally see him rounding out and becoming a center one day in the NHL. And now we're going to move on to number 16 and the 16th best prospect in this draft. We're going to go to Swedish winger in Oskar Olausson. Now, Oskar Olausson has the flash, he has the talent, and he has the potential to be a great middle six forward, I would say, at the NHL level. There is some longevity concerns there, but when Oskar Olausson is at his best, he's a fantastic offensive force, and I think it's definitely worth taking that risk inside the top 20 and even potentially in the top 15 if he continues to play the way he has, especially in the Allsvenskan. Then going inside the top 15, we're going to start out with Canadian forward in Zachary Leroux. Now, Leroux's kind of been around this 15th spot for me. I think he's perfectly fine in that area, but he's a solid power forward. I'm not sure if he'll actually be a center at the NHL level. He's been good in the QMJHL this year, nothing that absolutely blows my mind, but I think when it comes to the tools and the overall physicality he can have at the NHL level, I think he can definitely succeed at the pro level too, outside the QMJHL, and be a pretty typical third line, maybe second line forward at that level too. Then going on to number 14, we're going to go to American winger and a guy that's come back from injury and has been spectacular in Chaz Lucius. Now, Chaz Lucius was really starting to drop from my rankings just purely because he was not playing. He was stuck from injury for the first few months of the USDP season, but has played this last month, and to give credit, has been awesome. Now, the big problem with me has always been just the skating consistency, and I have seen some improvements there, but the offensive force that he is really what you're going to draft him as. That shot is one of the best, if not the best, in this draft, and the goal scoring and offensive potential, I think, just gives him another advantage over a lot of prospects in this draft, but the skating has improved, and that is super important to see from him. But now, moving on to number 13, and next up, I'm going to go to Canadian forward in Xavier Borgo. Now, Borgo is quickly becoming one of my favorite forwards, I would say, in this draft class. He keeps on scoring, but the translatability of that scoring, I think, is definitely key with Borgo. He has been insane, though, in the QMJHL this year, and it's easy to see why. His fundamental fusion of overall vision and overall playmaking and that shot and goal scoring ability that's really come alive this season. He just has a lot of enticing skills that I think will definitely give some piquing interest in the NHL level. For me, he's a guy that's been rising around that 15th area for a long time, though, and as a guy that I've always had faith in as a potential top 6 winger, I think he will eventually get there. He will take some time, but I think the talent is there to be a fantastic NHLer someday. Then going on to number 12, we're going to go to a guy that's kind of dropped down one spot. I'm not really sure because it was all because of him, but I think some other players have gone past him a little bit. We're going to go on to number 12, though, and Simon Edvinsson. Now, Simon Edvinsson, I want to give full credit for, has been a lot better in the Allsvenskan compared to his SHL and Junior 20 play, but again, I think there has been some players that have kind of surpassed him in terms of overall stock for me. I still think Edvinsson or actual decision-making wise still has a long way to go to get to the NHL level, but the skill and the raw talent is there. If your team can unlock that talent, you have a potential top pairing defenseman, but if you don't, you kind of have yourself a first few seasons of Rasmus Ristolainen situation where the impact is not matching the talent that they could potentially have. Now moving on to number 11, and going on to number 11, I have finished sentiment in Aatu Räty. Now, Räty is one of the more frustrating and interesting prospects, I would say, in this draft, as a guy that came into this season as the projected first overall pick, has lost a little bit of that mojo, especially offensively when it comes to point totals, but I think he's doing a lot of the right things, has had some pretty bad teammates, and quite frankly, has had no luck so far this year. I think he will be fine, but the dream of him being a potential first-line center and being a lock for that is pretty much over. Then going on to number 10, we're going to get inside the top 10 for the prospect rankings. And at number 10, we're going to go to another player kind of like Xavier Borgo, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite prospects in this draft. We're going to move on to Canadian centerman in Cole Sillinger. Now, Cole Sillinger was fun to watch last year, but the man has been on a different level so far in the USHL this season. He has been awesome for the Stampede. He's leading their team in scoring by 2 points and has played like 20 less games than the guy who's in second place in team scoring. He has been on a different level, and when it comes to the skating and when it comes to the fusion of offense and talent, he has so much to offer in his game that I think he could potentially become a first-line player in the NHL. I think the skating isn't quite at that elite level to get to that, but I think there is still a chance that it does happen. He is that good, and the work ethic is that good as well. Then going on to number 9, we're going to go to another WHLer who has been on fire so far this year, and we're going to go to Canadian winger in Dylan Guenther. Now, Dylan Guenther was insane last year, was the rookie of the year in the WHL, and I thought absolutely deserved it. He was on fire almost every single game, and coming into this year, I thought he had a lot of potential to do the same as well in the WHL, and so far this start has pretty much been right where he left off. He has been awesome. The AJHL play was a little bit concerning, but he's just a different player now in the WHL, and offensively is showing the skill that he's pretty much always had. Now going on to number 8, we're going to go to, in my opinion, still far and away the best goaltender in the 2021 NHL draft. A guy that's kind of slumped a little bit recently, but still has potential, in my opinion, to become one of the best starting goaltenders in the NHL. We're going to go to Swedish goaltender in Jesper Wallstedt. Now, Wallstedt is a guy that, starting up the season, I had so much praise for, was putting up absolutely electric stats, and to be a starting goaltender in the SHL in your draft year is pretty much unheard of, yet Jesper Wallstedt has been up to that level. He has, again, slumped quite a bit this past month, which is why his stats don't look quite as good as they used to, but I still think Wallstedt is a guy that will rebound past this slump, and when it comes to potential, when it comes to the calmness that he has, which is the biggest thing in Jesper Wallstedt's game, I still think he can become a potential franchise goaltender and be among one of the best in the NHL for sure. Then going on to number 7, though, we're going to go to another Swedish player in this draft class and in this top 25, and we're going to go to Swedish winger in Fabian Lysell. Now, Lysell is one of the more, I would say, hype prospects, I guess, in this draft. I've seen him, especially these past couple of months, get a lot more praise inside the top 5, and I've seen a few places put him at the number 1 spot. Personally, I don't quite see that, but I think there's a lot to like in Fabian Lysell's game. When it comes to the overall play, I think he's one of the best in this draft. Just like Svechkov, he has such a great awareness away from the puck, and when it comes to overall finesse defensively, there is so much to like there, but the offense also does not slouch either. He has a lot to his game in terms of playmaking and in terms of great overall passing ability, where he just makes seams look so easy all over the ice. He'll be a fantastic player and a top 6 player in the NHL for sure. Well, pretty much. And now getting us inside the top 6, we're going to move on to another Canadian player and go on to, in my opinion, again, one of the more polarizing prospects in this draft in Kent Johnson. Now, I want to say here right now that if you have a guy like Kent Johnson, number 1 or number 2 or number 3, I can completely see why. When it comes to the offensive fun that he expresses, his fun per 60 is leading the entire 2021 NHL draft. He is such a fun, finesse player that, in terms of the offense of the game, I think has a lot to offer in the NHL, but I still think there are some concerning things that do hold him back. Firstly, his play away from the puck, which might just be because he's on a line with Matty Beniers, who is almost the exact opposite, where he's always on pucks, is always making the right play, and is always an elite in his own zone. Kent Johnson kind of seems a little bit out of place, but when he does have the puck and he's able to make magic happen, he will make magic happen, and in terms of skill, could be the best player in this draft. We'll just see how it actually translates to the NHL level. And now getting us set up for number 4 and the 4th best prospect in the 2021 NHL draft, I'm going to go on to one of my favorites in Swedish winger William Eklund. Now, Eklund, I said, was a Swedish winger. He could be both the center and the winger at the NHL level, but I think a lot of teams would rather have him on the wing long term, and I could definitely see why. But when it comes to Eklund, he slowed down a little bit SHL-wise around February, has gone back up to a pretty decent level, and is a decent bit over a half a point per game, which for any SHL eligible is absolutely fantastic. But I think when it comes to William Eklund, his translatability is definitely there. When it comes to the skating and the overall pro play, he's definitely a pro player already. He's proved that already in the SHL, but I think in terms of translating that to the NHL, he doesn't quite have the amazing size on him, but he plays well for his size. He plays intense for his size, and especially in some games with guys like Alexander Holtz on his line, he's played like the best player on that team, and in the SHL to do stuff like that on a consistent basis is pretty awesome to see. Then going on to number 3, though, we're going to go inside the top 3 and moving on to a guy that I think a lot of people kind of wrote off a little bit with his slow start in Slovakia, but has been awesome and is now going to go back to the OHL in Brandt Clarke. Now, Brandt Clarke is a guy that I have had my concerns about, I've had my tribulations about, but at the end of the day, when it comes to pure offensive transition ability and pure overall potential, Brandt Clarke is still one of the best in this draft, especially when it comes to defensemen. I think the big thing, though, is transition play. He is such an amazing player in terms of getting it straight from behind his net, right up in the neutral zone, and getting a clean breakout going. He is simply the best in this draft when it comes to that pure fact. When it comes to puck handling ability, when it comes to overall play, I think you've seen a lot better of it in Slovakia, especially as that season wore on. I think being able to play that pro season is definitely going to help him going in the future. He's a real pro already and a guy that I think has a lot to offer at the NHL level. Then going inside the top 2, we have 2 Michigan players left on this list, Owen Power and Matty Beniers, and in my last mock draft, I had Owen Power 2, Matthew Beniers number 1, and at number 2, we're going to continue the trend and go at number 2 with Owen Power from Michigan. Now, I want to say this right now. If you have Owen Power number 1, I can see why. He has great size, great physical ability, and in terms of puck handling and offensive potential, there's a lot to like. I still have my concerns with him. He got a little bit better as the NCAA season has wore on, but I still think defensively, when it comes to pressure that he should have in terms of skating, in terms of the edge work defensively, I think a lot of players have blown past him this season. There is still a lot to work on, but if you can get him to the full potential he has, he'll become a number 1 defenseman in the NHL. It's just how likely that it is. We'll see what ends up happening. He has the potential, though, to become a number 1, and the size and the speed and the skill there could still be elite. But now going on to the best player in the 2021 NHL draft, and at number 1, I'm going to go with my boy, Matthew Beniers. Matthew Beniers, once again, comes in at number 1. I'll say it again, he, in my opinion, is the only prospect in this draft that has no weakness whatsoever. In terms of potential, I don't think he's going to score 100 points in the NHL level, but I think that's completely fine. I think he's a guy that, at the very least, as a second-line center, if he is a second-line center, will be one of, if not one of the best out there. And as a first-line center, I think is totally capable of reaching that level. His work ethic is absolutely supreme. He already plays like an NHL player in terms of the defensive responsibilities and the overall play driving. He is exactly what I want in a player. Obviously, is not going to be a Sidney Crosby or anything, but in terms of actually getting the job done and just being a hard player to play against, he really does bring it all on defense and on offense. I think there's so much to like in Matthew Beniers' game, and in my opinion, although he might not be the most talented, he is the best prospect in this draft right now, and at the moment, the best player in this draft and the most complete player at the moment. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more hockey content just like this one. Sorry about the delay. I know I haven't uploaded in a few days, but hopefully we'll be back on the grind. At least every other day content coming back on the channel, so look forward to that. But share this video with your friends. Get it out there, boys. Comment down below. What do you think about my rankings? What do you agree and disagree with? And who do you see as the best prospects in this draft? Make sure you click on this card right here to watch all of my hockey rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. I'll see you in the next video or stream. We're back in the house, baby. Goodbye.